If you hate capitalism, stop paying the capitalists. It's really not that complicated. If the system is designed to extract wealth from workers and funnel it into the hands of a few, why are we still handing over our paychecks voluntarily? Netflix, Disney Plus, Hulu, YouTube Premium. Every single one of these services is owned and operated by the same class of people we claim to oppose. Every dollar spent on these platforms strengthens monopoly power, keeps billionaires in control of media, and ensures that no alternative ever gains enough traction to threaten them. And let's be honest, you don't need them as much as they need you. These companies aren't entertainment providers, they're data farms running endless psychological experiments to figure out how to keep you paying, how to keep you watching, how to keep you engaged just enough that you won't cancel. Their revenue streams don't rely on quality or necessity, they rely on habit, like a drug dealer. Break the habit. Because these platforms don't just entertain, they shape the narrative. They decide which stories get told, which movements get platformed, which critiques are acceptable. And if you think they'll ever allow a genuine anti-capitalist movement to thrive, you're fooling yourself. Why don't the biggest progressive commentators encourage their audience to cut off these corporate giants? Because they rely on the system too. Their subscriber counts depend on algorithmic visibility. Their ad revenue comes from the very corporations they critique. Their livelihoods are directly tied to keeping people engaged with these platforms. They can't afford to tell you to unplug. Because if their audience actually started rejecting consumer culture, if people stopped pouring money into the streaming monopolies, the entire digital economy they've built their careers on would start to collapse. Now, I'm not saying these people shouldn't be making a living. I'm not saying independent media doesn't matter. But if your entire business model relies on the continued success of the system you claim to oppose, then you are never going to be a true threat to it. And that's the problem. You can't dismantle capitalism while ensuring that its most powerful entities remain profitable. So what do? We redirect, we starve the beast, and feed the movement. Cancel unnecessary subscriptions. Start with the obvious ones. Anything owned by a major corporate monopoly. Support worker-owned media. There are already cooperatives, independent media projects that survive on direct community funding. Find them. Back them. Invest in mutual aid. Instead of dumping $15 a month into Netflix, put that money into a local mutual aid network. Make sure people in your community have food, housing, and resources. Help build independent alternatives. The goal isn't just to boycott capitalism, it's to replace it with something better. That means worker-owned news, cooperative tech, and decentralized platforms. The oligarchs do not own you unless you let them. You do not need another mindless streaming service. You do not need another ad-filled doom scroll session. What we need is a future where these people don't get to dictate the terms of our survival. And that starts now. Leftism isn't a brand. It isn't an aesthetic. It isn't a personality you wear online. Leftism is practice. And that means doing more than just understanding that capitalism is exploitative. It means living like you actually believe it. Every dollar, every click, every decision we make feeds something, either the system that exploits us or the alternatives we're trying to build. And yet, too many self proclaimed leftists still fund the exploiters, still refuse to demand real material policies, and still treat this fight like a debate club instead of a war for survival. It's easy to talk about capitalism's failures. It's harder to stop propping them up. Socialism isn't a theory, it's a necessity. The cost of living is spiraling out of control, not because of some mysterious economic force. It's happening because corporations are raising prices however they want, whenever they want, with zero consequences. We already know price controls work because we've used them before. So why isn't every single leftist media figure demanding this? Because their revenue depends on playing it safe. They won't push for something as material and immediate as price controls because their platforms rely on corporate donors, brand sponsorships, and digital ad revenue. Even Kyle Kalinske, who prides himself on running a small dollar funded show, still relies on YouTube ad revenue to supplement his income. That means he's still tied to Google's ecosystem, still benefiting from a corporate structure that actively suppresses anti capitalist content. But recently, he offered a purity test, demanding that real independent media not take sponsorships and only rely on donations. Okay, so where's his call for boycotting the very corporations that bankroll this exploitation? Where's the push for price controls or the general strike for starving the oligarchs of their power? It's not that he doesn't know. It's that even without direct corporate sponsorships, his success still depends on keeping the machine running. Because these policies threaten the same companies that own the platforms they all depend on. And whether they admit it or not, that creates a limit, a boundary they won't cross. If you're waiting for these people to lead a movement, you're wasting your time. Real leftism doesn't happen on their shows. It happens in our actions, our choices, and our demands. This isn't about perfection, it's about direction. Every action either moves us closer to liberation or keeps us locked in place. Choose your side. It's simple. If your favorite leftist pundit isn't talking about price controls, the general strike, and cutting off corporate funding, they're not serious about change. This isn't a purity test, it's a priority check. If they're still paying Musk, they're still feeding into corporate media platforms. If they're still treating leftism as a career instead of a fight, what are they actually doing? Nothing. That's why we have to stop waiting, stop hoping these figures will get brave. They won't. Challenge them. Demand real action, not just commentary. Push for economic justice over performative activism. Because leftism isn't a brand, it's a battle. So are you fighting or are you just a customer? And I know I'm sounding angry. I'm not. Trust me, this is not me angry. I'm just disappointed. Disappointed because I expected more from the land of the free and the home of the brave. I'd really love America to show me its mettle because all I've seen so far is lead. Thanks for watching, listening, or fuming in anger as you wish an aneurysm would visit me. Hit like, subscribe, or don't. I don't care. I'm posting either way because this isn't about money, it's about the mission. Eyes open, voices loud.